This incident occurred in 2014 as I was on my way to my great-grandparents' house in Goose Creek, South Carolina. We left in the late morning, around 11 a.m., aiming to reach there before dinner. Our primary reason for the trip was a cruise vacation that my great-grandmother had arranged. The group included me, my mother, my father, 2 aunts, my great-grandfather, and my great-grandmother, along with a few of my great-grandmother's friends. In the car, it was my mother and me, along with most of our luggage. My father would join us a few days later due to work commitments, so we decided to drive out that day to get there early and catch up on some family drama, as was customary. My mother had just finished packing the car and called me downstairs to get in with my bag of entertainment items. I eagerly rushed down, excited for the road trip and to reunite with my family, as they hadn't yet caused the issues that would eventually drive us apart. At the time, my main focus was on Minecraft and collecting Beanie Boos, rather than the harsh realities and peculiar individuals of the world. After about 2 hours on the road, I informed my mom that I needed a bathroom break. I had consumed about 2 water bottles, and my bladder was complaining. Given that we were still near a busy city area, there were plenty of gas stations and convenience stores where we could stop. My mom also asked if I was hungry, to which I enthusiastically replied, knowing that it meant I could have some junk food, which was a rare treat. We exited at the next available ramp and soon found a quick trip. I was practically bouncing with excitement as we parked, eager to grab my favorite chips, candies, and a sugary drink. I knew my mom would regret letting me have it later. We got out of the car, and my mom grabbed her purse. We headed inside to use the restroom. My mom patiently waited for me outside the restroom, and after a few minutes, I joined her. We proceeded to browse the snacks and drinks section. I picked up dill pickle Lays, Rolo candies, Cheetos, some sausage sticks, beef jerky, and a Sprite and water from the cooler section. My mom also had a handful of items. As we approached the checkout counter, I counted the cars in the parking lot, a habit I had developed due to my fascination with cars at that time. My mom gently tugged my arm as the line moved forward, and I followed her like the clingy 7-year-old I was. We reached the counter, greeted the cashier, paid for our items, and left with 2 bags of snacks and drinks. I was elated, sporting a wide grin, knowing I'd be well supplied for the remainder of the trip. As we concluded our transaction, a man wearing a red Nike hoodie, black sweatpants, black shoes, and sunglasses entered the station. I took particular notice of him because of the sunglasses indoors. He walked up to the counter with a friendly smile, and my mom exchanged a brief greeting, that casual acknowledgement you offer to strangers when you'd rather not engage in conversation. However, things took a sharp turn when the man playfully smacked the counter and jokingly said, "Give me all your money." The cashier appeared confused, and the man gave her a few seconds before getting serious, slamming his hands on the counter and pulling out a gun. This time, his demand was no longer a joke. In a panic, my mom dragged me out of the store while I stared in confusion and near awe at the situation unfolding before me. She practically shoved me into the car. Not literally, but you get the idea, and quickly drove out of the parking lot. The last thing I saw at the gas station was the man holding the gun to the back of the cashier's head, shouting something inaudible. It's been 7 years since that incident, and gas stations still give me a nervous, uneasy feeling. The quick trip had been torn down, with a new building erected in its place. While it may not have the dramatic and chaotic ending some may have hoped for, it was a frightening and traumatic experience for me. I wanted to share it to see if others have experienced something similar or know more about the incident. I now work at a gas station in New Zealand. Despite the challenges of dealing with difficult customers, I have always loved my job. The station I started at has a significant number of homeless people or individuals facing financial struggles, even if they have a home. One particular homeless man had become a stalker of mine. When I first started, my co-workers informed me that we'd often give this man a free cup of hot water to which he'd add sugar sachets. They mentioned that he was a bit strange, but generally harmless, except for his frequent use of profanity. Since he was homeless, I felt compassion for him, especially during the winter. However, this man's behavior began to escalate. He would make comments about my appearance, then my body, and eventually stopped asking for water entirely. Instead, he just wanted me. He'd come into the store and head straight for me, lingering for what felt like hours. The breaking point came when he winked at me and said, "I always had a friend in him." The way he said it sent shivers down my spine. So, I decided to stop letting him in when I was working alone. I locked the doors, but I knew he was watching me. I could sense it. As soon as the last customer left the forecourt, he'd approach the doors. I caught him watching me multiple times a day from alleyways and bushes. We got him trespassed, hoping it would resolve the issue. Unfortunately, it didn't. He continued to watch me, attempting to get in and yelling at me through the doors when I refused to let him in. This went on for months, and I was terrified 24/7 at work, even having nightmares at home. Countless incidents of harassment, attempted entries, and sightings of him watching me only made it worse. The worst encounter occurred when I was on forecourt duty, filling cars and cleaning the pumps. We have speakers at all pumps connected to an intercom inside to communicate with customers. It's a large site with 12 pumps. I heard my coworker call me inside through the speakers, her voice filled with panic. My initial thought was that a customer was causing trouble. I rushed inside and immediately heard the doors lock behind me. My coworker pointed towards the bushes with wide eyes. I turned and saw him, peering in. The scariest part was that he had one foot poised to lunge forward, as if ready to attack when the doors opened. I called the police, who arrived quickly. They were already there when I hung up the phone. The officer taking my statement informed me that the man would be charged with criminal harassment, and a restraining order was in place. Legally, they had to issue a warning before an arrest, so he was released the same night, but I couldn't take it anymore. I was in constant fear, and it wasn't a matter of if he'd return, but when. The next day, I handed in my 2 weeks' notice. Management didn't want to lose me and offered a transfer to a distant site where he'd never find me. I accepted, and for about 3 months, everything was peaceful. There was no sign of my stalker, and I felt safe. However, just a month ago, the officer handling my case informed me that I had to appear in court to testify against him. I was terrified of seeing him again, but I convinced myself it was necessary. I had come to terms with it, determined to ensure he was held accountable. Then, the worst happened. He found me at the new site. I don't know how he did it, but my best guess is that he asked a new employee at my old site, someone unaware of the restraining order. They must have told him. He approached the doors, and I ran away in panic. My manager saw my fear, and we locked ourselves in her office. She called the police, and they swiftly apprehended him. Thankfully, my prayers were answered when the officer called and informed me that he had changed his plea to guilty. I felt an overwhelming sense of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. The court date was approaching, and I hoped for a conviction. I know it's not entirely over. I have a feeling he'll return when he's released. Last night, my boyfriend and I were driving home from Universal Studios in Orlando. We were rerouted to an unfamiliar road, practically in the middle of nowhere. My boyfriend's speedometer was broken, and he had to manually reset the miles after refueling, which became crucial in this story. We realized we needed gas and found a gas station 5 minutes up the road. My boyfriend thought he had lost his gas cap and pulled over to check. He realized it was still attached to the car. We continued to the gas station, which was quite desolate. While we were there, I had a dreadful feeling that something might go wrong. I pushed it aside, knowing we needed gas. We left the gas station, and my boyfriend got out to see if we could get gas. That's when my feeling intensified. I felt a sense of dread I had never experienced before. My stomach churned, and I panicked, shouting my boyfriend's name. A white car pulled up on the road, even though there was no one else around. The driver noticed my boyfriend, reversed with the windows down, and it all felt very suspicious. I began screaming my boyfriend's name, fearing a potential robbery or worse. The driver turned left and sped away. Sadly, I didn't get the license plate number. It was one of the most terrifying moments I've ever experienced. We eventually found a gas station with more people around and made it home safely. Once home, my dad informed me that the road we had been on was infamous for the number of bodies found there. I hope no one ever has to face such a situation. To the man who was planning something sinister, let's not meet.